Hello, this is first part of the modeling process. As you can see, I have some spline blueprints from the AutoCAD file. And first of all, I have to extrude the walls. These are all spline objects, so I have to choose modifier called extrude. And just adjust the amount. Let's adjust gray material to it. And something strange is happening. The mesh actually has flipped faces. So you have to check them and manually flip. The flipped faces are completely black compared to our gray material, so they are pretty easy to distinguish. Flipped faces and double edges or unwelded vertices are a common problem when extruding lines from the CAD files. So pretty often you have to clean the mesh. I will select all of my top vertices and just use snap to snap them to a side view of the building to adjust the height of the walls correctly. If you ever will have problems with distinguishing normal faces, there is a great option called X view. You have to enable it via viewport options and check face orientation option. Now when you click on mesh, you'll see flipped faces will have green color. So as you can see, we have still one problem in our mesh. So let's correct it. Okay, rest of the mesh seems okay. Now let's also use weld option to weld multiple vertices. And now we have to clean our polygon groups, because now they merge to one. Okay, so our walls are finally done. Let's just detach these four pillars from the wall. And in the next step, we will model windows. And right now I'm just moving all the shapes to the separate layer. It's always good to separate different objects and place them on different layers. This way you will keep your scene clean. Okay, let's start modeling windows. So let's select these edges and connect them. Now we have to make these connects planar. Okay, and now we have to use snap option to snap them to our top plan view. This way the windows will be completely aligned with the plan. Okay, right now I will select ring and select all the vertical edges in the walls and make a connect to match the horizontal lines of the windows. Let's use snap to adjust the horizontal lines together. Let's change it to 2.5 snap. Okay. Now let's make a second connect to match bottom line of the windows. I'll just select a few of these, and once again just use snap to adjust it to the plan. Now I will use bridge option to make holes where the windows should be. And let's make another little bridge here. I have to make another bridge above the door, but let's first create two connects and use snap to adjust connects to the plan. And now we have to join the faces by using bridge. And now I will just repeat the same process for the windows on the back of the room. Okay, let's add a horizontal connect. And now I see that I don't have line on my plan to snap to, so I will have to snap it to the windows on the other side to match their bottoms. So let's check if you have edge snap option turned on, and I will use axis constraints by y-axis. And now just like before, let's use bridge to create holes. I have only one window left to create, so let's do steps just like before. Let's make a connect. I will use chamfer to make two connects and make some another connects between them. Now just use snap option to align it perfectly to the plan. First, let's snap these vertical edges together by using edge snap. Also make sure that you have correct axis constraints turned on. And now just use vertex snap. First let's disable edges. Click on y-axis to make it correct constraint, and we are done. And now just use bridge. Now it's time to create ceiling. Let's delete these two faces and select border. Now use cap option to create ceiling. Now let's make ceiling to be see-through. Just go to the options of this object and select backface cull. Backface cull option will make ceiling see-through only from the above, and when we will be inside, it will look normal. Let's create first camera and insert it inside of the building. Now let's make one more extrude in the ceiling. This opening will be used to put more light in the kitchen area. Okay, now it is time to create window frames. So first of all, let's create a plane that is covering the whole window area. I'll just select these four edges and create spline from them and convert it to poly. Now let's move it inwards a little bit using snap. Now let's make some connects to create lines where the window frames should be. Now let's use inset option to give our frame a little width. Use inset option by polygon. And now let's detach these elements. This will be used as a window later. Now let's add shell modifier to create some thickness. Okay, we can move this frame a little bit outside. And let's make this wall a little bit thicker. I will copy this frame as an instance. So when I will be making changes to the first frame, they will be automatically adjusted to the second frame. Now let's remove shell for a moment. Now let's detach this central frame. And let's clean this mesh a little bit. So let's remove these edges and connect vertices to make connects perpendicular. Now I will detach these 4 polygons to create separate objects from them. Let's copy our newly created objects using snap. Use instance option. Okay, now let's detach this right side of the frame. And copy it once more. Now let's use shell modifier again on these objects. I will move this part of the frame a little bit inside. Now let's add edit poly modifier to create chamfers along all the edges. Adding chamfers will make these frames a little bit more rounded. If it's possible, you should always avoid sharp edges without chamfers, because they will always look artificial. We are having a small problem with mesh here, because we've used shell on the object that hasn't been detached properly and has one vertex connecting two objects. So let's correct this. And now, after detaching, we have two vertices in this place, so it's correct, and we can use editable poly. Like in the previous object, let's chamfer the edges. Now let's use chamfer on the remaining parts of the window frame. Now I have to collapse these window frames to editable poly, and I will attach them together. And move these vertices a little bit to the left side. This is how my window looks on the reference. And I will copy it as an instance. Okay, let's unhide our window glass and use shell modifier to give it thickness. And we have to move it a little bit to match it with the window frame position. Now I will copy it and move it a little to create double layered glass. Let's use collapse selected. Let's detach this central window glass and adjust its position a little bit. Now I will scale the window glass to make sure that it intersects with the window frames. Let's create a copy of the glass. Now I will create a balcony door. Let's create a simple plane and snap it to the balcony opening. Let's change segments to 1 and convert it to poly. And use snap once again. And now just use inset to create a frame. I will use one of the previously created elements. Let's delete the central polygon and use shell modifier. Now we can convert it to editable poly and add chamfer just like before. I'll just copy the whole frame and scale it a little bit to create a balcony door. Now let's select these edges and convert it to poly and extrude them a little bit. This will make balcony doors more realistic, because we want them to be opened in the final scene. And let's chamfer all the edges just like before. I've repeated the process for the remaining windows. I've created window frames and inserted window glass. Now I want to adjust some corrections. Once again, I will use already created object. I have to add this element under the window so it looks more realistic. Let's add some more small details. I will select these edges and make a ring selection. Now let's use connect and then extrude it a little bit inside. It will create a small crevice. And let's make the same thing on the other window. Okay, let's create some more details in the windows. Right now let's create some window hinges. This is a simple object, so let's create cylinder. Let's scale it a little bit down. Now reduce segments and convert it to poly. Now let's insert top and down polygon. Now add some connects. And let's make a extrude that goes inwards. If you have trouble using extrude or chamfers on the objects that are really small, it's usually better to go to orthographic mode. Now let's add some small detail using chamfers. And now we'll just have to copy them a few times and place them correctly. Now let's create another detail. Let's create window handles. This is a very easy object to model. Let's start with the box and convert it to editable poly. Let's chamfer the corner edges to make them a little more round. Now we can use inset and chamfer this border edge. Let's delete the bottom face because it's not necessary. Let's use inset one more time and add two connects to avoid bad smoothing. Let's add some new details. Let's create two cylinders and later we will make screws out of them. Now it's time for main element. So create a box, convert it to poly, add one connect, and now I will extrude this polygon down. Now let's align these elements so they are centered correctly. It is time to chamfer all the edges to avoid sharp corners. Now I'm using inset on the faces to create additional lines. These lines are required if you want to use Turbo Smooth modifier. Let's add some small detail on the screws. I will create two connects and then use extrude. And now I will assign correct smooth groups. Okay, now it's time to create a floor. Let's select our plan. And I will use it to create a closed shape from the inner part. I will need this shape for a plugin that creates floorboards depending on the shape. The script is called Floor Generator. It's a free script that you can download from the website. Now I will play a little with the settings to achieve satisfying results. I want to set a random length between 100 and 300. Let's check it from the camera view to see if the scale feels right. Our floor has little spaces between separate panels, so it is a good idea to create a flat surface beneath them to prevent GI problems. I will select edges around the wall to create an element between wall and floor. So I will convert my edge selection to shape. Let's create shape from selection. Now let's enable shape in viewport. And be sure to choose rectangular shape. I will just move it a little bit upwards. And increase its size. Okay, let's convert it to a editable poly. I will clean the mesh from the unwanted edges. I want to add chamfer, so let's choose the top corner edge. And use chamfer with 4 segments. There is a hole left here, so let's copy one of the floorboards and just scale it a little to match the hole. Now let's adjust correct smooth groups to this wall border element. In the next step I will create a window sills. This is a very easy element to create. Let's detach this polygon as a clone. This will create a new object exactly in the same place. Let's center our pivot and then use shell modifier to give it thickness. Let's create a first furniture model. It will be a bookshelf. Create a box and using snap, let's stretch it between two pillars. This will be the bottom wooden element. Let's convert the box object to the table poly. Once again, to avoid sharp corners on the object, we'll use chamfer. Let's set segments to 3. Now I'm using edge ring selection, converted to polygon, and then using inset option to create additional edges required for correct smoothing. Now we are ready to copy this element multiple times and modify its vertices to create a whole shelf model. So the shelf model is ready. In the end, we can select all the elements and make them into one group. Now I will show you how to model a heater. This is a very easy model, so it doesn't need that much explanation. And now let's make a cover for the heater. Once again, we will start with creating a simple box. Let's add some connects that will be used later to create spaces. I forgot to add chamfers on the windowsill, so let's do this little correction right now. I will use chamfer twice, and then the exact same method as before to prevent bad smooth groups. And the last element shown in this tutorial will be heater pipes. These are simple line objects with the enable in viewport option turned on with a radial type. To add another vertex, just use refine option. And to create a smooth curve, let's use fillet option. Now just add some small pipes that are coming from the floor. Now let's just adjust the correct positions of the pipes, and this will be the end of this part of tutorial.